Okay.
Yeah, I can see the PowerPoint.
All right, perfect. Well, thanks everyone. Thanks for joining. This one is both for members and for Champion Bets newsletter subscribers. Just the first section is just a presentation, sort of summarising predominantly the member survey that we did in January, just to give our members the results of that and some of the insights from that, which are interesting, to all punters. There's a lot of interesting stuff there on bookmakers and that sort of thing. And then I've also developed an 80-page members information pack, and I will go through that and sort of summarise some of the key points. And again, members of course, anytime you've got any questions, you're welcome to flick them through to me or to Dave, and they'll come back to me. But what I have realised is there's about 30 slides here and 80 pages on the members information packs. That's about 2 slides or pages a minute. So I am going to rush through as quickly as possible, get through things. I know there might be some questions as they come through. Feel free to send them through to Dave, and we'll try to answer as many as we can. If we don't get through everything, we'll try to stick to the hour. Then I'm happy to reply to people directly afterwards. So apologies if we don't get to your question, but there's a lot to get through, as you see. So I'll try to get through things as quickly as possible. Firstly, just a very quick summary. We've been going for 4 years within TrialSpy, 565 units profit, around 10.5% POT, over 7,000 individual bets over the time, and the way that we work is pretty conservative staking methodology. The average individual bet's 0.75 units, which is certainly different to some of the services and some of those things out there that bet 10, 20, 30 units a race sometimes, but certainly in line with the Champion Bets philosophy of a 100-unit betting bank, and staking to maximise your returns and minimise your risks during any periods of variance. Just to summarise, there's really 3 key ways that we bet. Win and place, pretty simple, and exotics that these days, after we've tried a few different ways through years, and each have had their varying levels of success, but generally it's trifectas that have found there certainly is still an edge there when you're identifying high quality trials, and a lot of them in those maidens and that sort of races can't really pick their feet up, so you can isolate the main chances. You can also identify the races where the market is just really overbet. Sometimes a trialer and sometimes a racehorse compared to what the trialers potentially have shown. So quite often the races I'm targeting with those exotics now are the ones where I think there's a false favourite or favourites in the race that might not be anywhere near as good as the market expects, and that's when you can land some of those. They can be pretty juicy. All 3 bet types are reasonably similar POT. I'm happy with exotics. Win there's always refinement and looking at the staking. I think the biggest opportunity is place for this year. Actually do feel there's a lot that I can go back and analyse, and I'm going to in the next couple of weeks around the place side of things, and really maximising that, and probably reducing a lot of the place bets to increase that POT, I think, on the shorter ones, and really attacking the ones at big odds, which is where I believe most of that profit's generated from. Sorry, I've frozen. Let me just go back here. I'll skim over this. This is just the profit graph since the service started. Obviously, and we'll talk a bit about variance as we go along. It's never perfectly smooth sailing. It's interesting when you look at things from a 4-year perspective, and that's what's always perfect. It looks perfectly fine, and everything's good, and you're making significant profits. But there's always these periods of dips. We had a sort of dip there, a reasonable dip there, sort of a dip there. And what's interesting is, whilst when you look at a 4-year graph, it feels like, oh yeah, big deal, that's nice and easy, that's not a problem. When you're actually going through that period, and this was 3 months of betting, this was about 4 months of betting, that period can be really tough. And that's where having that long-term mindset and perspective to know where you're going and where you're heading it's just so vitally important whether you're following this service, whether you're following any other service, whether you're betting for yourself. As long as you have full confidence that the edge is there long term, what's important is that consistency and sticking solid and staying through, because that's the only way you're going to be successful. And that's whether you're betting on horses or investing in shares or investing in property, as long as you're making the right decisions long term, as long as you're sticking with it. But the buy high, sell low philosophy that a lot of mum and dad investors, for example, in shares suffer from is the same sort of philosophy that sometimes people with their betting suffer from, which is to get out, often at the point in time when things are just about to, rocket straight back up. Sorry for the delay. It's just lagging a bit with moving on to the next slide. Can you hear me, Dave?
Yeah, loud and clear. It's still on the cumulative profit chart at the moment. I think you said it was lagging a bit. And just while you're I just encourage people to ask any questions along the way. We've got members and non-members tonight, so hopefully a lot of what we'll discuss is relevant for both. But if you've got any questions at all, just use the chat pad, send them through, and we'll cover some during the presentation and the rest at the end.
Yep. Yeah. Again, there's another way of just showing the results, which is just simply a result by month. Again, we've had some great months. We've had some absolute shockers over time. It happens for a variety of reasons. We did identify, for example, wet tracks causing some issues some times of the year, and of course, over the years, just identifying, sometimes the wrong horses as well as bad luck and running and all those sorts of things that happen. Which you learn through, but that's all part of the investment cycle. And obviously, as long as you're getting more of these than these, and that these are larger than these, that's basically the key to making long-term profits. What I will go through after this is the Trials by Members information pack. I've actually updated, it's now 80 pages. Some of the sections include 5 sections around getting the best possible odds, which I'll definitely cover tonight because it's relevant, not just for following this service, but for anybody's betting in general. The annual review, which we'll cover through in this presentation, the member survey summary, the official odds recording policy, a bit about how to manage your betting banks when you're following multiple services. I'll show some of the stats, but a lot of members do follow multiple services with great success. A bit on how to avoid getting banned by the bookies, variance and perspective around losing periods, some New Year betting resolutions, and just a bit about the minimum bet laws as well, so that people are clear on those. One of the main changes that we introduced at the beginning of this year was a method I developed to try to communicate more clearly betting advice. And for me, this is actually one of the more exciting initiatives for Trial Spy, because sometimes in trying to advise whether to bet early or bet late, there was sort of a long write-up, and I thought, what's an easy way to try to communicate? Because a lot of members can sit there, there's some who can sit there all day and monitor, and they're good with, the corporates and Betfair and sitting there and monitoring prices and taking great prices, but there's some, the majority who, they might work full-time or they're busy and really they just want to bet and forget. And so what this was really designed for all kinds of members to understand really clearly and quickly what's expected. So to go through this, especially F4D, a capital F means this is a really big overlay essentially. Is a horse that's way overs in the market. The bookies have got it wrong. Definitely a firmer. I would advise you just take the best fixed price available and load up. Those ones almost certainly will firm significantly, and they're usually the biggest value and where substantial profits often come from. The caveat to that is if any time one of those drifts, I would say there's something wrong with it, which is rare, but they've often lost a leg or someone knows something that we don't know. But yeah, more often than not, though, well, firms are going to, and more often than not, I would expect them to run as expected. A smaller F means, sort of possible / probable firmer in betting. You can take most fixed, but sometimes worth sort of monitoring a portion, maybe a quarter or something late. And again, the guidance can never suit every person on every day, but, for example, if you missed the best early prices and it's firmed a fair bit, well, then, you're probably best to look back and again, if you don't have time to monitor, look at your best tote or even better Betfair SP sort of option. If it's blank, and this does just notify that I haven't put an F or a D, that it essentially is, a 50-50 sort of bet. It could move either way. Depends a lot, not only on the horse that we're backing, but the other horses in the market. There's betting stables. There's, sometimes the market movements make no sense, and you just don't know when someone or the large punchers or the syndicates are going to get excited about a horse, whether they're right or wrong. For the most part, on the swing of things, you think most probably firm in that bracket, then drift. But certainly for the people who can sit there and monitor, it definitely suggests to take half fixed, half monitor. Even for those who can't, again, you've got to play it by ear a little bit. It sort of says there, take half fixed, half monitor. But again, if you've got an early and you're getting a great price, and recording the third best fixed price of only a very selected number of bookies. So if you're getting one of those top really early prices with the bookies, well, take it all. If you're getting it a bit later, then it's don't panic. And I suppose that's one of the key elements of this. D means a possible drifter in betting. So take a portion early, but don't dive in. You can take more at again either monitoring or that best tote Betfair SP. And a capital D, really expecting this one to drift. It's kind of unders. It's unders what I expect it to be. It might even be unders what I expect, but I also expect to get out in betting, which is why it's being sent out as a bet. And I think the best part of this is, these ones in particular tell you when not to panic. If for whatever reason you haven't seen the alert on the day, or people have a meeting or something, a lot of these will tell you, well, don't panic. You don't have to take that lower price. Just switch over to the Betfair SP or best tote sort of option, because you'll be okay. It's not you're not missing out a huge amount anyway. And it's just sort of split. So the capital F, take 100% fixed as a general rule. Capital D, take 100% late. Best tote SP, Betfair SP sort of rule, and that's sort of the guidance. So hopefully that's clear. But any questions, let me know. Again, this is for everyone. Just it still surprises me, but there's people with different levels of knowledge on betting, different experience, and there's a lot of different betting options. For example, there's what they call BOB, best of the best. It gives you the best of the totes or the top fluck. This is something that is offered by some bookies. LuxBet definitely offer it. The Ladbrokes group, Ladbrokes BetStar bookmaker offer it. I believe Classic Bet, Palm Bet, and maybe Betting Club still offer it. It's only offered on Saturday metro meetings. So usually the main Saturday meeting at New South Wales, Victoria, Queensland, South Australia, and Western Australia will have that available. For a lot of meetings, certainly on a Saturday, you're better off taking BOB than you are, say, Best Tote SP or Betfair SP, for example. So it's a good option. Best Tote SP, there's lots of different names for it. Sportsbet call it Top Toast Plus, LuxBet, LuxDiv, all that sort of thing. Most of the bookies offer this. I've listed a few, but really most of the bookies offer this, and most of them offer it for every meeting Australia-wide. Certainly, Sportsbet, for example, do. And they are less likely to restrict people on best tote than they are on fixed odds betting too. So most people can usually get that on any race. If you can't, Betfair SP is a great option. Betfair SP's own analysis showed 17% better than best tote. And Dave, I think Mark did some analysis on this, and it showed something fairly similar around how much Betfair SP actually outperforms best tote SP, and particularly on ones that are big odds or that drift significantly. And so again, Betfair SP, there's a real advantage to taking that in the long term. So it's a great option. what's also really great is you can actually put in a minimum price to accept. So if you're looking at the the market or the market price that I've recorded, depending on whether I mark an F or a D, you know, you can also put a minimum price there, for example, on some of those D runners as an example, and you know, say, well, you know, if this thing firms, I'm actually not really that interested in backing it anyway, and happy to let it go. Of course, you can simply take the best fixed price available with the corporates at the time of notification. As we always say, those of you that do have a Bet365 account, it's always a great option. When it's available, they often have the best prices in the market anyway, and obviously they've got that SP guarantee, which gives you the SP if the horse drifts above the price that you took. And of course, New South Wales and Victoria minimum bet laws mean that even if you've been banned by Bet365, they are still a great option for everyone at that time. If the price is at least competitive with the other bookies and hasn't already been taken. And of course, your other way of betting is basically taking the best price available throughout the betting from the time, you know, a bet is notified until race start time through the corporates, the totes, or Betfair. So they are essentially your betting options, and how well you can learn to take the best option. Certainly, it's impossible to take the best option every time. But the more that you can teach yourself on this and utilizing all of the options available, the more success you're going to have, you know, regardless of actually improving your results. You know, a lot of punters, when they're doing their own selection, spend a lot of time trying to improve their strike rates or their POT or that sort of thing. And I think every single person underestimates how much, if you just spent time getting this right, your results will improve enormously without you actually having to change anything to do with your methodology. Again, there's just a summary of some of the big results that we've had over time. You know, Martha Mary was, these are the official prices on the left, but you know what was possible over here on the right. Martha Mary was $84 best tote. George's Loose got out to over $100 on Betfair. Public Spirit got out to $80 on Betfair and $53 best tote. That was a bit earlier this year. Zutano was last week, I think. Officially put as $41, but there was 61 51 available there, and a few others. Yeah, had some big place prices come up. You know, horses sort of 100 to 1 who are back to sort of run seconds or thirds, and some big exotics. You know, with the Kimball Grange trifecta that we got for 100% for $100 per unit investor. Which is a big collect. Cranbourne $10,000 trifecta win. I believe that was the race that George's Loose won. And a big Canterbury run as well. So we've had some success there. I guess in demonstrating the edge, members know about this. Non-members, you know, might be interested. For example, Martha Mary had 4 starts, run 6th, 6th, 7th, and 9th, but its average beat margin was 11 lengths. George's Loose had 1 start, run 9th, beaten 10 lengths. Public Spirit had 2 starts, and the last one had run last. Zutano, we bet recently, and run 11th, 9th, 10th. It's 3 starts. We've even had a couple of debutantes that the market hasn't found at $34 and $30 that have won. And this is where the edge is with looking at the trials. The market just misses them, and horses, for a variety of reasons, can race terribly and trial really well. And sometimes they trial really well and they run terribly a couple of times, and there are so many reasons that a horse can run poorly. You've only got to read, you know, a few weeks worth of stewards reports to just see how many things can go wrong. And the stewards reports really only report probably 25–30% of what really happens, because anyone who owns a horse will know the myriad of other excuses that you can hear and things that go on, and little injuries and issues in running and saddle slipping and just not handling the track, and all the various reasons that are often genuine reasons why a horse hasn't performed well. But if they show that inherent ability in the trials, eventually you get results like these, and that's why, you know, a lot of people know that I stick solid with a number of our horses. That's because I know once they get to the right distance or the right track conditions, the right rider sometimes, just the right situation, that they'll get up and, you know, it's probably the toughest thing for all members, maybe even new members, that sometimes during a losing run, it's very frustrating. For me, I just always know that it means there's going to be some absolutely fantastic opportunities. And sometimes when a horse runs really, really poorly down the track, terribly, that's what I actually enjoy the most, because I just go, okay, we might have got an okay price this time, but boy, we're going to get a really, really good price next time. And that sort of mindset is very different to a lot of other different types of traditional betting and form analysis and ratings and that sort of thing, because I've just got the ability or the faith in obviously the process that I go through to identify the horses that they are going to often return whatever they've lost us in the past once they get the right conditions. I just go through some of the survey results. How long have you been a trial by member? I just summarise this sort of easily, 1 year to 4 years, and see the vast majority of our members, and almost half of them have been with us for 3 to 4 years. I don't think there's many services out there that have such a long sort of retention, and obviously we only do one intake a year because we've always with the service had to protect the members' dividends and make sure that we're not taking in anywhere near as many people as want to join or would join through a year. So our intake usually maybe takes about sort of 15-20% of the spots, but the vast majority of people are staying long term. This shocked me a bit. Do you have a dynamic odds account used to check odds, market movements, or place bets? Because honestly, this should all be blue. It should be 100% blue. There's really no reason that I've heard yet that would explain why somebody would not have this. Here's some of the reasons people gave. I don't know. Perhaps I should. I should have one we go on with. Don't have time. I use a free version, which is okay for me. Only one for a few months. I've now realised how stupid I was not to have one for the whole of 2016. It's $30 a month, which you're living in a false economy if you're not willing to invest that. And you basically can sign up to all of your bookies through this one platform, and you can click a button and place the bets rather than having to search through every single bookie's website individually and look for the best price and then back it on their website or on the app on your phone. You can simply back it through this application whilst looking at what the most important element is actually seeing all of the best prices that are available and taking them. Your results are going to so enormously exceed that $30 a month. It is just a no-brainer. And they even if you're working full time, I mean, if you can get it up on your computer, you can use it. If you can't at work, you actually can still bet through your phone. They do have a way to do it where if you've got dynamic odds open on your computer at home, you can actually even bet through your phone on dynamic odds, which again is better than searching through 10 different bookies. So I've yet to hear a reason in my time that would explain why anybody would follow the service and not use it, other than if you just, if you're really just happy to, get best total all the time, or just take whatever price with one bookie. It's fine. Some people do that, but this is an investment they'll pay for itself. How many dollars do you bet per unit? As you can see, a large proportion 100, a fair few 200, some $500 a unit, and a few $20 to $50 punters as well. And what we've seen over the time from Trial Spice started is these ones were the biggest ones, and here, and this was quite small. And over time, people's banks have grown, and these members who've been members 1, 2, 3 years have started to now push to the $200 to the $500 a unit. And the average, I think when we early started was maybe $80, $90 a unit. It's now around $140 per unit. 150 a unit as people's banks grow and they invest a bit more. Although of course the other strategy people use is simply to follow other services and do that successfully too. In terms of the betting method, pretty much bang on 50% say have limited time and place all bets when received. There's a section that can monitor prices and bet later weekends, but not during the week. There's quite a large portion that have the time to monitor the bets in green, but still just place most when received. For you guys, it'll be a time thing, but you are missing out on what you could potentially return. And I say to people even on the weekends, even if it's just on the days, it might be a weekend, a public holiday, you're at home, any day that you can monitor and can spend the time, closer to race start time to see the betting fluctuations and take advantage of it, do it. Do it for two reasons. One, you'll get better profits. Two, you'll learn more about taking great prices, which will help your day-to-day betting and your betting in whatever way that you're betting outside of the service. And some also there in red have time to monitor bets. So play some bets early at fixed prices and then monitor during the day. And they report, well exceeding the official results by a very, very long way. Odds recording something is always important, I think, when you're running a public service, to be sort of genuine, transparent, and achievable. The majority happy with the odds recording policy, majority suggesting to continue with the existing method. This was just a question, again, for me it's just about making sure that members are happy. We only do one intake a year, and there's a substantial retention rate. So for me, what's important doing it if people aren't happy, but the results here sort of suggested that most are happy with each of the elements of it. It's just an interesting one for people, I think. How many horse racing or sports betting services did you subscribe to in 2016? The majority, 4 or 5, some sort of 6 or 7, 8 or 9, 10 or more. Average number of services subscribed to was around 5, 43%, sort of close to half rated Trial Spy number 1 of all the services that they have joined. 90% saying Trial Spy in the top 3. Are there any questions, Dave? Did you want to?
Yeah, sure. I've got one from Nigel that said, if you're monitoring and the price gets crunched, haven't you already missed the opportunity? I think he's talking about the dynamic chat. Normally when something gets crunched, it gets crunched quickly.
So there's 2 elements to that. The first is going back to what I wrote, where if a bet is a 50-50 bet, for example, or a D bet where we think it's going to drift, then if you miss the price, we would not panic at all and just bet late. Some of the big Fs, sometimes they just keep firming and they don't come back, but they're nowhere near as common, A, as they used to be, or B, as I think people assume. And the answer to your question is no, you haven't missed it. If you sit there and wait, you'll be astounded at what prices do come back. And there's a number of reasons for that. Some people take early prices, and there's a lot of people that back and lay. Not just members, just astute punters that back and lay horses. They take overs on the horse they think going to firm. And what happens is, the bookies overreact. And let's say, something's, let's say it's $15, and let's say people go really hard and go into $6. What you'll generally find is, firstly, people will go back on Betfair and they'll lay back. A lot of people lay back that bet, and that thing will get back out to 10, maybe 12, might get back out to 15, might get back out to greater than 15. It all depends on the situation. But also what happens is a lot of the big punters, the syndicates, they bet late. And if the horse was given out at $15 and they've rated at $10 and it's $6, well, they're not going to back it. They're going to back other things, pushing other horses' prices in. It'll go back out, and it drifts back out. So the biggest, one of the interesting things that I've noticed is that there's this panic, there's this fear of missing a firmer, a fear of missing an early price and it going in and not getting a good price. And what there isn't is the same fear of missing a drifter, of getting a better price on a horse that drifts enormously on Betfair when you could have taken Betfair SP rather than locking the fixed price. And that's a a human mindset, psychological sort of thing that most people face, I think, when they're following services. What I do and would encourage you to do is, if you look at the trials by results sheet, there are three main columns. There's the comments column that actually tells you the third fixed price at the time that the bet was sent. There's then the official odds listed for any horse where there was a collect, which tells you what was officially recorded. And then there's a column that just says available odds. And the only reason I put that in there, there's no way that anybody's ever going to get the available odds, the best available odds every time. But what it does is show you what's available. And it's really, if you skim through that, I think your jaw will drop and you go, wow, are those prices really available? And if you go on Dynamic Odds and have a look at the corporates, at Betfair, Flux, you'll see that they are available and you'll learn a lot. It's something that I haven't actually finished writing this article, but one day I'll finish. But when people a lot of people like to record their results in spreadsheets. And one day I'll get around the article, but I'll probably be controversial in saying for a lot of people, I actually think that's a waste of time if you're following services. Professionals record their results to see where their edges, to see where their opportunities are, to see the best way to bet them, and that's why I do it. For a lot of people, what I've found is they're time poor. They spend very little time actually getting the best price, and they spend all this time typing in a whole lot of stuff that's already in results sheets anyway, and then recording the price they took, but that's the only price they put in. What you really need to be doing if you're going to record your odds is have a whole lot of columns, and you should be putting the price that you got, and then after the race you should be looking at Dynamic Odds and seeing what all the other prices were. What was the best tote price, what was the Betfair SP price, and what were the prices that were available. And with that data, you can then go back after a significant period of time, reasonable period of time, and actually analyze how you've been betting. And that's what's important, how you've been betting with the bookmakers that you have available to you and the options that you have available to you. And that is how you will learn to get better prices. And that's the best advice that I can give. If you're going to take the time to record odds, you A, need to do that, or I think you're wasting your time, and B, you need to make sure that it is not whatsoever interfering with the time that you actually spend placing the bets. Because if you're cutting down the time you spend placing the bet because you've got to fill in this big long recording sheet, then for me that's a false economy. You've got your attention in the wrong place.
Okay.
If you actually just placed your bets and looked at the end of the day and saw what was available and learnt through osmosis and through time, you'll get a lot of benefit out of that. And that's advice that is applicable to some people. So take that for what it is.
Yeah, no, that was a great answer. Yeah, great answer to a really good question. Got another, well, firstly a comment. So there was someone that hadn't heard of Dynamic Odds, so he's surprised that you can bet with any bookie and, basically do that quite comfortably to monitor odds and bet within Dynamic Odds. So definitely check them out. A question that will be an interesting one for you because it covers a topic that is often analysed, rarely solved, but how to avoid or minimise variance. So this is from Abby. He said, have you given much thought as to how to avoid or minimise variance? From 4 years data, we have a number of entities to review, such as package hitting maximum profit on turnover, consecutive wins, the growth graph, the winning months of the year, like seasonality. The question is, what thought or what work have you put into avoiding or minimising variance?
Great question. It's always part of my analysis, and there's some certain areas that I'm going to look at very shortly, and I sort of referred place betting. A lot of the reason we do place betting, although of course it's profitable and delivered, I think it was 76 units of the profit, so it's profitable on its own, is actually a variance minimizer because, for example, a rating service will, you may be back sometimes, 4, 5, 6 horses in a race. We are usually focusing on 1 or, maybe 2, predominantly. And because of that, the way to reduce variance has often been backing a horse each way rather than backing it win only, so that if you have a string of close seconds, horses getting blocked for runs, charging home late for those seconds and thirds, at least, if you're backing a horse, say $5 or $6, it might be around $2 a place. You're breaking even rather than losing. So that has been a key way to reduce variance. I did do a lot of analysis mid-year, and I did that during June, July, because my previous analysis had shown that a lot of our biggest variance had been during winter months when there were heavy tracks, and you just can't rely as much on the trial results, particularly if a lot of the trials are on dry tracks. And the results are more varied. And I found that the shorter end of the market actually was causing probably more variance in some cases. But for me, it's always been a critical element, because when you're running a service, it's something that is really, really important. And I've always strived to minimise variance as much as possible for members. But by the same time, same token, you don't want to sacrifice profitability. So, my initial analysis is about maximising profitability. My secondary analysis is about, okay, how do we achieve that profitability without crazy variance, which, there's a lot of various different types of punters out there, and I know some that are happy to have enormous variance because they back their edge, and when they win, they have enormous profits to compensate with that. But, that doesn't really suit running a service, in my opinion. You have to be cognizant of minimising that variance as much as possible, and that's what we've tried to do with this service. But the bottom line is there is no such thing as eliminating it. It's just what you can do to minimise, and that's really the analysis around the trial, is around the prices that we're taking, around the staking, and all of those elements. But certainly in terms of short-term variance, it's going to happen.
Good stuff. And your background involves quite a bit of skills and experience in analysis, so that's actually something that's definitely helped out the overall results and the staking, is that you're not just watching trials and crossing your fingers. There's a lot that goes on the analytical side as well.
Yep. This is interesting to people. Which bookmakers have you ever had an account with? So this is the first section, which is just one of the most popular bookies. Bet365, Betfair, Sportsbet, CrownBet. The majority of people have accounts with these guys. Then you sort of go to Ladbrokes, Luxbet, William Hill, UBet, Centrebet as the most popular ones. And then you go down to the bottom here, some of the lesser known ones that are used less often. In terms of the colour coding, red means they're not included in the official results, black means they are, green means they're not. We don't include Betfair. That's really for fairness, because you never quite know the liquidity, but I mark it green because you should be absolutely using this to way exceed official results. Bet365 I put in yellow because we don't include it for all the states apart from Victoria and New South Wales when there is the minimum bet laws in place. But again, we take the third best picks off, and it's not them anyway. Then the next question was, which bookmaker closed your account or severely restricted it to the point where you will never use that bookmaker again? Again, except New South Wales Vic, where minimum bet laws are in place, so every single bookie needs to bet you. The Ladbrokes group, by far and away the biggest villains in this case. Ladbrokes, Betstar, Bookmaker, all up the top here. Bet365, becoming a banning. Unibet, which last year we included in results. This year, just some members have advised, I pulled that out and no longer included in results because they've appeared up here now as having banned a significant number of members. So I've pulled them out. Betting Club a lot, Bluebet, Classic Bet, some of the small ones. What you'll see is, the best for not banning people, Top Sport, and yet they're not very well used, so something for everyone to look at. Top Sport aren't very popular, but they're on dynamic odds now. They do offer great odds, and they ban less people. Betfair, obviously, UBet and Tab are pretty good. These ones are small, so I don't include them in results, and then we are using these ones because they're very common and they're sort of middle of the road. at the end of the day, this was sort of the difference between who you've had an account with and who's severely limited you. So this is the most common unrestricted accounts, and as you can see, we are basically only taking official results from these selected bookies. The third best fixed only of these bookies, excluding Betfair, excluding Bet365, exclude Palmerbet because they're not on dynamic odds, and I exclude all of these because they've either banned too many people or there aren't that many members who have an account with them anyway. So we are simply using the most common unrestricted accounts for results, and just a selection of basically 8 bookmakers, taking the third best fixed price of those, all mid-tote. Improvement to the trials by service. I'm aware that we are rapidly running out of time here. There was a lot about advice on likely market movements of selections, and I've hopefully rectified that now with the introductions of the F and the D. A lot of people happy with things. A couple of mentioned sometimes there are 4 or 5 selections. I would say that's probably 1% of the time. It's rare that we do that. I think it was probably that maybe we had one just before the survey was given out, because a couple of people mentioned. I'll say something. What I might try and do here is a quick example. Let's say there's 6 horses in a race, and that's the market price. One's a $2 favourite, and the rest are $6. But you think every horse has the same chance of winning. So that your rated price is $6. So that's a $2 favourite in the market, 50% of the market. These are 10% of the market. That's 100% market. Each horse you rate is $6 chance. That's 16% of the market. So that's 100% market. You have a few options in this situation. You can either lay that, but we're not a lay service, so I don't give out lays. You can guess which one of these horses you want to back, because you're getting $10 and you rate it $6, so that's a value bet every time. Or you just back all of them, and whichever one wins, that's fine. And don't forget that that one might be 10, that one might drift out to 15, that one might drift out to 18, because they never stay at the market. That might drift out to 20, and suddenly you're actually getting a really big edge on that if you're backing all 5. And as I've stated sort of in this information pack, if you're backing multiple horses in a race, don't go taking just a fixed price for them all, because they're going to drift. There's no way they're all going to firm. So that's the logic behind it. You're getting a positive EV bet on all of them, so why would you not back the 4 or the 5 if you really got to set against the favourite? That's the theory behind it, just so people understand it. Some of these I might need to sort of respond to people directly, because I'm running out of time and I want to go through some of the other stuff. There's just a description of the service, and again, thank you. I really appreciate all of those comments. The number 1 value being a Trials by member, again, thank you for those comments. It sort of justifies what we're doing, and ensures that I'm running things in the right manner, which is what I'm trying to test. I was just a rundown of what members have said they've been able to do with profits at times. And again, thank you very much, a few testimonials there, and appreciate the people who've been members for a long time writing those. I think there'll be a replay, so if anybody really wants to read all of these, you can press pause and read in your own time, but I'll jump over here and try to make some progress on this one during the last 15 minutes. Were there any other questions, Dave, before I move on to this?
There's a couple here, and we'll encourage people to send a few through for the last bit, which is the Q&A session, but now you can move on.
Okay. This is just an introduction to the members information pack. Members receive this being a member of the service, and I won't be able to go through it all in detail, but there's about 80 pages of information here. A summary of the trials by service, some of the frequently asked questions. We explain about our 100-unit starting bank, the purpose of how we bet, the sort of unit staking and the methodology around sort of a derivation of the Kelly criterion to maximise your profit, minimise the variance. Just an example of how you do the calculations for your betting bank. What is this? Saver. Sometimes we sort of back a horse to win and another horse just to save and return our investment back so we don't lose. just my concept of rated and minimum prices and how you can calculate an effective rated price, staking for exotics, why we back multiple horses in a race, which is basically what I just explained to you there, the concept behind it, and a bit about the betting advice, which we've covered there, the F's and the D's. What time is selection sent? Look, there's an explanation because a lot of people ask, can there be a standardized time? Look, we try to send bets at 9 a.m. on most days if possible, particularly if they're in New South Wales or Victoria. Obviously, because the minimum bet laws are in place from that time, I don't want to send bets out anytime before 9 a.m. because I want every member to be able to get on. So sending at 9 a.m. makes sense, and that beats any people who are betting at 9 a.m. as well. Apart from that, I am to send at midday latest. You know, a lot of people say, can you do standardized time? The difficulty is the time zones. This is not a service that just operates in one state. We cover New South Wales, Victoria, Queensland, that are an hour different to Eastern Standard Time. You know, Adelaide sometimes half an hour difference. Brisbane, Perth is sometimes 3 hours difference. That means the scratchings are all a different time. The bookmaker markets therefore adjusted at a different time. They need time to settle, and that means that bets cannot be sent at the right time. The other really important point members need to understand is I monitor the markets, and they move at different times. If a horse is firming or expected to firm, I get the bet out quickly so that you get the best price. If it's drifting, then I'll wait and I'll send it a bit later so that, again, you're getting the better price. And you might not see this, you know, but you might not see, unless you look at dynamic plugs, that the horse was, you know, $7 and then I waited and they backed something else, so I expected them to back and we actually took it at 12s or something like that. But, you know, why would I send it out a standard time when by waiting a significantly better price can be obtained by members? So that is some of the rationale behind it. You know, the feedback has been, can you at least give some advice of when tips will be sent out? Look, if it's not going to be sent by, say, 9:30, I'll try, but the difficulty is I'm often at the whim of things that are out of my control. The scratchings don't always come at exactly the right time. Sometimes with Perth, with WA, they seem to fluctuate somewhere between 2.5 and 3.5 hours after the standard 8 a.m. scratchings for New South Wales and Sydney. Then sometimes some bookies are just slow and they don't update their markets for the scratchings. And I want to make sure that as many bookies are available, you know, the majority or all the bookies are available so that, again, everyone can get set on ones that, you know, we need to take a fixed price on. And other times the markets are just sort of moving a bit and I just don't know when it's going to be the right time to send out. So I do my best, but there are genuine reasons, and it's for people to maximize profits, why I can't always tell you exactly when the bets are going to come out, and I certainly can't just send them all at the same time every day. Getting the best possible odds, there's 5 parts to this. The first is, you know, we've had some dramatic drifters win, you know, starting at $21 and they're betting $80 on Betfair, 13 to 36, 9 to $40. The Kelly criterion suggests that to maximize long-term profits, the greater the edge, the more you should bet. So if you rate a horse a $3 chance and get $7 in the market, theoretically you should actually bet more than if you get $5 in the market. So I do suggest sometimes if you do, and again, people can't monitor all the time, but on the days that you can, if you suddenly see that there's this enormous price on Betfair or somewhere about a runner, you know, particularly if well, with any runner really, but, you know, particularly one where the staking or the betting suggestion suggests that, you know, we're pretty confident on this one, have another go at it regardless of the staking. Don't be afraid to have a bit more, even if you've had your full bet on it, because what that does is it increases your average price that you've obtained. And, you know, and in some areas, they, as you can see here, they can bet dramatically and win. And, you know, just having a bit more on them can, you know, even if it's 50% of your original bet more or whatever it is that you're comfortable with, if you're taking those really high prices and when they get up, you know, that's a really big boost to your profits. And they can get up. People get excited about certain horses and people are often wrong. Next section, you know, 5 easy ways. Dynamic odds, use them. Bookies with a buffer, Bet365. If it's the same price as other bookies and you can bet with them, why not? Because they get an SP guarantee. Betfair, just something everybody needs to be utilising when they can, as much as they can. You'll be amazed at the prices you can get. Obviously reading this members information pack will help, and additional late betting stake on big drifters. Part 3, there's more detail here for members. I might not go through it all in detail. now, but I'd suggest you have a read of that. Then I think I've said the top 10 ways to beat official results and maximise the results. Betfair, Bet365, bookies that obviously aren't included in the results, and there's a lot that you can look at. Bookies not on dynamic odds. The reason I say that is, often members will say, oh, the prices went quickly if we're saying, oh, this was a big firm or we have a big stake on it. Then sometimes on those occasions, the prices might be gone sort of 10 minutes or so. The best prices anyway, but often they're still big value prices. But what is interesting is some of these bookies that aren't on dynamic odds, often their prices won't be taken because members are all rushing to dynamic odds and betting there. So there's actually a real edge for those who want to use their Palmer bets, their Mad Bookies, their BetHQs, those sorts of smaller sites, and actually have those open and ready to go, because their prices won't be taken as quickly if people are betting mostly on dynamic odds. So there's actually an edge to go off dynamic odds but not use the main bookies. Horses sometimes drift to better prices than quoted when the alert is sent. Sometimes I send the alert and by the time I look, the price is already far greater than that, but we still record it at alert price, so that's an opportunity. And the book is offering better prices than quoted after the alert is sent. So sometimes the alert's sent, there might be a couple of bookies that haven't opened prices yet. I've seen horses where they've been $11 and we've sent it out and then suddenly Tab or someone goes up late and they open up at sort of $21. So they're worth sometimes keeping an eye out for. Monitoring and betting late. The thing is, when bets are sent early, there's this assumption that every horse is going to firm. The reality is those early markets are actually 130%, 120%, and they can get down to 102% on Betfair, and sort of 110, 115 sometimes with the corporates. So there is opportunity there to just not panic, as I've said before, and that's probably the important point. Sometimes not betting too, but horses become over bet, gets to a silly price. Just let it ride. There's no point if you haven't got the value, let it ride. But I have provided some guidance around that because people have made mistakes in the past where they haven't backed a horse, but yet if they had backed it, there was still enough value there to get a big collect. And I have somewhere in here talked about the how annoyed will I be concept, and that is, if we're backing a horse for a unit and it gets heavily backed into $2, and it was $8, if it wins and pays $2 and you make a 1 unit profit, are you really going to be annoyed? No, you've missed the value, you probably don't worry about it. If a horse was $31 and it's coming to $15 and we're having a unit on it, so we're really confident, 31 unit stake, should you back it at $15? Yes, because that's still a 15 unit collect. You'll be very frustrated if the horse doesn't win, and that's still a big overlay. So that's some of the guidance around how to decide when to bet if you've missed a price. And laying back a runner on Betfair, there are some smart runners that take the really good early prices and then they lay back. And this is the reason why sometimes this helps other members who can then take those prices a lot higher than what it might have been backed in at. But you can make a lot of profits, backing those F horses and then laying back and guaranteeing yourself a win whether or not the horse actually wins. The last part, this part 5 is actually the most important, and I would really encourage all members to read this carefully. One key distinction is metro or city races, on a Saturday or a Wednesday, versus country provincial. The markets do not shift as much on the big metro city races. There's a lot more money in the pools. There's, the markets open on Wednesday, so they're often knocked into place anyway by the Saturday, for example, and they just do not fluctuate as much. So there's less panic that you need. If you miss a price, or more often than not, the horse is going to drift back to a better price anyway. And using BOB and that sort of thing can be a great option. Betfair SP as well, those sorts of things. It tells you what the metro city tracks are in case anybody's unsure about that. Provincial, there's still a fair bit of validity in market. Country racing is where there's a lot less, so sometimes taking those fixed prices, those ones are definitely good options. But by the same token, some of those provincial country meetings are so strange and there's less people looking at them, and that means sometimes you get some crazy drifters as well. That could be big results. The advised unit stake is another one. Again, the standard we aim to collect is 5 units. You back a horse for 1 unit to win the horse's odds of $5. That is normal as a good bet. If the horse is $10, you have a unit, then we're really confident. Horse is $2 and we have a unit, this is a sort of lower confidence, maybe just to save a bit. That's kind of a barometer. Firstly, for whether I think a horse will firm or drift, as well as the advice I give, but that also helps you to guide whether you know, you're going to have more of an opportunity betting late than betting early. And this is where, you know, I sort of say, you know, even if you have if we advise a unit to win a horse at $31 for a big collect, even if it firms at $10, yes, you should still back the horse rather than not backing it, because it's still a big collect, it's still a big profit, it's still a big edge, irrespective of what the initial market price was. You know, conversely, if it's 0.1 of a unit on a horse at $31 for a 3.1 unit collect and firms at $10, well, you know, suddenly we're only talking about a 1 unit collect, it's unders, you know, maybe you'd go, that's fine, I'll just leave it alone. The other big one is one tip in a race versus multiple bets in a race. One tip in a race, there's more likelihood of that runner firming. We're focusing on one horse. I'm keen on one horse. There's more likelihood of that horse firming. 2 bets in a race, usually maybe one will firm, one will drift. If there's multiple bets in a race, it's rare they'll all firm. Quite often all 3 of them will drift. And I think this is a mistake that sometimes members have made, where you're backing 3 horses and they just lock in a fixed price, and there is no need to do it, and I think you're costing yourself by doing it. You need to be brave enough to, if you're not monitoring, take your bet for SP on all of them. Or again, you know, often in those situations, I'll advise which ones I think are an F and which are a D, and you can be guided by that as well as the staking and make the right decisions. But if you're looking at those 3 areas, that will help you enormously with your betting as well. And there's a few more sort of insights in here. Gone through the betting options, gone through exotics. My one piece of advice with exotics: don't bet directly with a TAB. Don't place your exotics with New South Wales TAB, Vic TAB, or UBET, because they go into the pools and they impact dividends negatively for you and for all members. You bet for a corporate bookie, generally they don't bet back into the pools. They actually just pay out the price that the TAB has, but you're not actually impacting the price. So certainly with exotic bets, I advise you to bet with the corporates at all time when you're following this service or any service. This is the 2016 annual roundup. I'll let you, you know, read that in your own time. Some of the big price winners that we had last year, the different bet types and the POTs, a summary of our results over the 4 years, and you know, we had a good run since I took the 2-month break, running at 17% POT from August to December. So I think that analysis had worked well. We have gone through all of this. Apologies, I just scrolled down. This is more of the summary again, just for members to see the responses of the survey. The official odds recording policy, let's summarise, want to be simple to understand, want to be followed by all members, clear and pertinent advice on expected market movements, you know, ensure that methodology doesn't negatively impact member results, and certainly something that I have seen happen, and certainly with experience there's no doubt, if I say best tote, everybody bets best tote, you're going to get a worse result. If I say bet fair SP to everyone bets bet fair SP, everybody's going to get a worse result. So it's counterproductive. So you need something that's easily attainable by members, ensures they achieve the best possible results and are getting the best possible results for themselves, which is most important, by following the advice in this document. That's why we've gone with the methodology of the 3rd best fixed price across only that small selected ring of bookies, or the mid-tote. And that means those who get on early, you know, and 3rd best fixed with those selected bookies sometimes is the 5th best or 6th best price available in the market, depending on who you're using. And mid-tote, well, you know, obviously you've got best tote, which is going to bet it, best tote SP, which is the next level, it's going to beat it again, and bet fair SP, that is up to 17% better than best tote. So, you know, on drifters, you should be doing a lot better. But it, you know, it comes down to, you know, how well you're following this advice and betting at the time that you place the bet. A few testimonials here. Again, you know, really appreciate those that took the time to write those. There's a section here, and I won't go through it because it's actually coming out on the Champion Picks website, and I'll just show you really quickly on the Champion Bets website. There's some articles coming out over the next 3 days, one on variance and back roll management, one on perspective around variance when you're betting, and one around are you banking on multiple services and how to follow multiple services. So just you read though, if you're not a member, you're not going to become a member, so you're not going to see this pack. You can still actually read at least those 3 articles and learn a lot from them. The key concept really is the reason people follow multiple services for more profit, diversification, liquidity limitations, you can't get on for unlimited amounts, and protecting bookie accounts. So it makes sense to follow multiple services, but what's important and what the point of this article is diversification is important. And it talks about how in property people can cross-collateralize and get in problems because if a bank calls a loan on one property, you actually lose all of your portfolio. Same with shares, there's things like CFDs where you can, they mirror the movement of the asset underlying and they explain it all, but you can invest 5% of a share but exposed to all of its value, so if it goes down you're in trouble. The same relates to multiple services, because if you don't structure it correctly, and the mistake people make is that they have essentially one bank for all services combined. So they might have a $25,000 bank and follow 5 services. They bet $250 per unit for every service. It has the most rapid upside potential, but it has the greatest risk because you only need one service, to perform poorly. And if one service performs poorly, and the reason I wrote this article was there were times during the last 4 years in TrialSpy where people have unsubscribed to service because they were following other services. And I didn't really understand it because I thought if you structure your portfolio properly, separate banks for each service, then one poor performing service cannot outweigh the rest. It cannot blow your bank. And then I learned that the problem was people were essentially combining their bank and combining their betting for all 5 services, which means you're betting too much in your bank essentially, and if one service goes bad, you can actually lose your entire bank, despite other services performing well. So that's the concept. It is going to be out on the website. I'd strongly recommend people read it because I've heard some horror stories, and everybody can avoid it very simply by following this advice. How to avoid getting banned by the bookies. Look, again, have a read of this, but bet size, the bigger you bet, the more likely you'll be flagged. Staking, bet on round numbers, $100, $50. Don't put these numbers because people will think you're doing it professionally. You bet timing. If you bet really late, right, too late, they can't manage their risks. They sometimes don't like that. Specializing, within a certain state or sport. If you're only betting in one state, you're only betting on one sport, or only betting on one thing, they're more likely to limit a ban and think you're an expert in that. So that's why using multiple services, or at least TrialSpy covers every single state and every type of. We bet in maidens, we bet in group 1s. So you get that diversity. Profitability, obviously that's so much you can do about that because you want to be profitable. They do assess that, and withdrawals is a big one. I know it's a tricky one, but the less you can withdraw and the more you can just keep pulling your back and have it sit in accounts, the better you can be. And there are strategies around doing some trading between your betting account and Betfair to get your account into Betfair and get your money into Betfair and then pull the money out. With those advanced strategies, but there's more detail here on those points around how you can avoid getting banned by the bookies, and obviously your bet size is a big one, and keeping to $50, $100 bets with a maximum of $100 bet with one bookie. So spreading your bets around. So if you've got a $200 bet you want to place, you better go and sort of 50 bucks with say 4 bookies, and just banging the 200 on one. These days, what we're finding when we're sending bets after 9 a.m., virtually every bookie, all 10, 11 of them in dynamic odds, and all 30 of them that exist are pretty much the exact same price. And most of them, the horses say $11, you're getting between 10 and 12. So spreading is going to protect your accounts, and that's really important because there's nothing more annoying than when you get banned, restricted, and then you go, oh, I wish I had been a bit more conservative. This explains the variance concept, and basically that each bet has an expected value, and has a positive expected value. You would expect if you're following a successful service, you've got an edge on the market. But that expected value is over time. I give this example for bookies. If you want to bet 1 unit at $5 on a horse and we rate it $4, 25% of the time you're saying you'll win $4, and 75% you'll lose your $1 investment. So mathematically, your expectation is 0.25 or a profit on turnover of 25%. But of course, for each bet, 25% of the time you're going to win, and 75% of the time you're actually going to lose. And that's what variance is. Even though you've got an edge, even though you're going to win long term, you're going to lose a lot of the time. And sometimes you lose in a clump, but then you win in a clump, and that's essentially the concept of variance. It's obviously explained in a lot more detail in here. And then this was an article where I actually analysed the 4 years of the trial SPY service, and this is going to be on the Champion Bets website, I believe, tomorrow, so you will be able to read it in total. Essentially, it says, okay, great, trial SPY's made big profits each year, made a profit, that's good. Interestingly, though, despite the large profits, there's actually been 15 losing months out of 45, so 4 losing months a year, 1 in every 3 months is actually a losing month, so you've got to endure that to capture the profits. Then you look at swings. So we looked at any swing over 20 units. That was any period of time where we either won or lost more than 20 units. So we won 73, then we lost 26. We won 196, and we lost 21. And you can sort of see that if you're the type of person who is a bit edgy, has a short-term mindset, you're really concerned about this, maybe you'll bail at this point, and then you miss out on this. You bail out on this point, and then you miss out on this. You bail at this point, you miss out on these profits. And that's the point to understand. And what the article does, it says, okay, swings over 20 units. Oh, there's quite a few of them that might be hard to handle. Some of them are over a decent period of time. You need to remember, you look at it on a piece of paper and go, oh, I can deal with that, that's not a problem. But can you deal with 45 days of losses? Can you deal with 79 days of losses? Can you deal with 56 days of losses and deal with that? But it's about a mindset shift, because that's if you're concerned about swings over 20 units. If suddenly you say swing over 30 units, well, actually, in 4 years, there's only been 2 of those. So if you're less bothered by it, and you just don't concern yourself with it, and you don't focus on the short term, then this becomes far easier and more enjoyable, your punting. Then, if you're saying, well, we've got a betting bank of 100 units, who cares about 30 units? I'm not concerned. I'm only concerned if there's a swing over 60 units. Suddenly that's getting close to the bank. Well, it's never happened. So if you can have that mindset, then you'll actually succeed with your betting, with following services, with your own betting, with just succeeding in investment in general. And so this sort of explains the concept and some of the mistakes that people make. Obviously, if you cancel, you miss out on the big profits. If you decide to stop betting for a while, some people do this. That's a mistake. That doesn't make any sense. You go through the period of loss, then you wait, and then of course there's a big winner, there's the big day. You miss out on that, and that's why, for example, managed funds make around 10% profit a year, something like that. I just read an article one day and it said the average mum and dad investor makes only half of that, and that's because when they hear bad news, they sell. So the price has gone down, they sell, and when good things are good again, they buy back again into the same or a new managed fund at a higher price, and that's why they do not get the returns, because they don't just stick with it. And really what you should be doing is doing your research on your own betting, or doing your research, detailed research on the services you're following, making sure that they're genuine, making sure that they're transparent, making sure that they're profitable. And once you do that, stick with it, and you will be successful. And the other one is reducing your stakes. Again, why would you reduce the stakes? Follow the methodology, and you'll reap the rewards. Reducing your bank. If you've set a bank, then you need to bet to that bank. Otherwise, you should have had a lower bank to start with. There's no sense in having a 100-unit bank and then getting down to 50 units and going, oh, I want to pull the pin, or I want to reduce my stakes. If that's the case, just have a 50-unit bank and let it stretch out over longer. There's examples, for example, in July 2015, we'd lost 9 units. The preceding month, we won 9 units, 2 units we'd broken even. So we're just dragging along. Then one day we won 63 units for the day. We're back to $30 winner. We've got a big exacta. We've got a big trifecta. In November 2014, we lost nearly 15 units for the month. A couple of people unsubscribed. Then the next 17 days, we won 67 units. So those people lost out on that. We even had one day, a few days ago, I think it was a Wednesday, we lost 8 units. We had 8 bets, I think. We lost 8 units. It was a frustrating day. We didn't have a winner. you know, you're sort of a bit down in the dumps. The next day we have one bet, horse at 30-1 runs third, we get a $2,500 trifecta, win about 13 units, so win it all back, and that's racing. You know, it can be one day that turns around, it can be a month, it can be a couple of months, but it certainly does. Look, 10 betting resolutions for you. If you want to see for yourself, look, operate a betting bank. That's the first one. Stay consistently, maintain your discipline, take a long-term focus, fix your mindset, only bet when you're getting value, find an edge with a niche, focus on profit, get yourself educated, follow a proven strategy. You do that, you're betting like professionals, you'll be successful, and you'll have a great year. Lastly, I've just put all the information that there is, you know, about the betting minimum bet laws so everybody understands. This is from Racing New South Wales, this is what they are. Essentially, every wagering operator must bet you to lose a minimum of $2,000 or $800 place, and for non-metropolitan, $1,000. So if you have a betting account that has been banned or restricted with any bookmaker in Australia, it is no longer restricted, it is no longer banned in New South Wales or Victoria. You simply contact them, you say, I want to bet now in New South Wales and Victoria. They'll give you a form to fill in. Some, it's really easy, they just tick it. Some do it automatically, some make you jump through hoops, but it's worth it, particularly being now in New South Wales and Victoria, obviously. I've even put where you can do the complaints if they aren't complying. But there's a lot of information here, again, about New South Wales and Victoria, and that's all there for you. And we are finally getting to the end, and there's a couple of profit graphs here. And that's the end. So I apologise for going over time. It's 8:45, we've been about an hour and 15 minutes. I do thank you for staying, and I now do welcome any questions if there's any more questions, or you might want to just go and enjoy your night. But, are there any more, Dave? Or?
There are a couple of questions. Yeah, we'll just keep it as brief as you can. Abby's asked if we can have a 10-minute buzz prior to the update going out. I know you're not a fan of that concept, but you might want to just explain why.
I do explain it in here why I'm not a fan of that concept. There's a couple of reasons, you know, that the markets can move quite dramatically even in a period of time. The idea of sitting there and waiting for 10 minutes after I've done, you know, all the assessment analysis and risking those prices changing isn't something that I'm a fan of. You know, the workload in a service when you're covering every single meeting in Australia, every single state, you're then having to assess the scratchings, reassess speed maps, reassess market prices, reassess your own prices, work out the strategy, type up the comments, update the price, you know, then suddenly you're ready to go, and if you wait 10 minutes, you know, like most of the time it'll hold, but every now and again you'll be frustrated. Suddenly something will dive in, it changes your entire betting strategy. You've got to change everything, you've got to change the price and that you put down there as a third price. So that is a reason that I'm just not too keen on it. The other reason is I find the idea of notification and advanced alert creates this mindset that you have to just dive in and get those best prices straight away. And I don't want that mindset because that's quite often not the case. You know, again, there's some horses that are expected to firm, and yes, that's the case. And if you can get a really good top price on them, great on those days. But for a lot of cases, it isn't. For a lot of cases, I'm trying to teach people of the wide range of options that they have with their betting, and not to feel like there's just this requirement to dive in every time. So, if there are circumstances where I am working and I think, look, it's probably going to take me 10 minutes to type this, and I'll send out a quick notification and say, look, stand by 10 minutes. Look, I'll do it. I'll do it in those days, but there's so much going on in the background to assess the horses and look at the market prices and type the things and get it all ready, that once it's ready, I kind of want to get it out and not, you know, have any further changes and sort of move on with the next day of assessing more trials and assessing all the other things and doing all the other things. So that's kind of the rationale, but I take the point on board. Like I've said, if I can reasonably predict the time I'll send the bet out, you know, at 9 a.m., 9:30 a.m. and it's going to be 11, I'll say 11 or 11:30. or 10:30 or 10 a.m., whatever the time is. If I'm working and I think, it'll take me 10 minutes, I might just say, look, 10 minutes, stand by. I'll do that on occasions and try and do that. So I will try.
Okay. Josh mentioned that he had his Ladbrokes account closed today. He said after only 2K profit with them. That's actually far better than a lot of other people that I hear from. But he did say he can't even log in to check his pending bets.
No, they are the weakest, and they are the worst in terms of in terms of the minimum bet laws. They make you jump through the most hoops. I think I had to give them bank details and statements and all these things that they needed, which no other bookie I think has asked me for. But yeah, and the pending bets thing's a frustrating part too. They really should allow you to log into your account and just not bet. That is frustrating. But look, contact them. They will reopen your account once you give them the information that they want, and then you'll be able to see your pending bets and you'll be able to bet in New South Wales and Victoria.
Yep. I've had a couple of requests for the members' information pack. Are you happy for people that have attended the webinar but may not yet be members? Are you happy if they email us that they get that pack, the email? Sorry, the PDF.
Yeah, look, if they want to email through, yeah, that's okay. We can send the PDF through.
Okay, so there's a couple of requests for that. The only other question was from Nigel, who said this must have been on the large results page, big results page. How come the Cranbourne Cornella says only 27 units profit, or 26.99 units profit for Cranbourne?
Yes, I know what he's talking about. This one. Because when I advise a trifecta, I am assuming a member is bidding $100 a unit, and I give a percentage. So with this, I believe we boxed 5 horses. I said take it for 0.6 units, which is 100% for a $100 unit investor. So 0.6 units would mean $60 for a 100-unit investor. If somebody's bidding $200 a unit, they would have taken this for 200%, and they actually would have got, 74. Or let's say they would have got a $7,500 collect from their $120 investment. With this one, it was a 25%. So I don't do it that low anymore. It's probably a mistake, but I think from memory we boxed, I believe, 7 horses in that race, and so we went with a 25% collect for a $100 investor, and that's why it was only 26.99 units profit and not 107.94, which it would have been if I was smart enough to give that one out at 100%.
Had a couple more requests for the PDF. So if you do want it, like I said, you've made the effort to either attend the webinar live or you might be catching the replay on YouTube. But just send an email to team@championbets.com.au, quote the Trial Spy members pack, and we'll get that out to you. Len's had a couple of questions which aren't really part of the discussion tonight. So Len, if you just want to email us directly as well, I'm happy to answer those for you, but it's not really an area of expertise for what we're talking about tonight with Dean. Was there anything else that you wanted to cover? Otherwise, we're good to wrap it up.
No, look, thank you. Thank you, everyone who stayed on. Apologies for being a bit over time, but, happy punting. And look, any questions, you can always contact the team at Champion Picks. You can always contact me directly. Let me update this. I have changed my email address. dean@championbets.com.au. And some people sometimes like to put me a quick note on Twitter and just ask a question, about the service or, anything. You can do that as well. But, flick me an email, any questions, whether you're a member or a non-member that you'd like to know, contact me or just contact the team at Champion Bets and they'll flick it through.
Excellent.